The finale of the road to splendor was deeply satisfying. After enduring one vicious scheme after another, Zhao Ling finally returned from danger covered in blood, and the emperor personally granted the marriage that allowed him and Fu Tingyun, two people who had suffered so much, to finally be together openly and honorably. After finishing the finale, it was impossible not to feel a sense of relief. Fu Tingyun and Zhao Ling had endured an unbearably difficult journey. More than once, it seemed as though they would never have another chance to remain by each other's side. Zuo Shi's jealousy had long since taken root deep within her heart. She could not stand Fu Tingyun's intelligence, honesty, or composure. Relying on her authority within the Women's Virtue Hall, she repeatedly created trouble for her. She secretly incited the wives and female relatives of soldiers to make Fu Tingyun's life difficult, while also encouraging Lu Dahu to provoke trouble at the training grounds. She spread malicious rumors about Zhao Ling soldiers and even deliberately withheld the salt that was essential to the army, determined to force Zhao Ling into a hopeless situation. With the army running short of salt, morale began to waver. Zhao Ling did not confront his enemies recklessly. Instead, he quietly devised a solution. He took his men into the mountains to refine salt from the cliffs, and during a meal, he deliberately placed an unbearably salty dish before Wang Daren, the official responsible for inspecting the salt supply. "Daren, the army does not have enough salt. This is all the soldiers can manage for now." Zhao Ling spoke calmly. Wang Daren tasted a mouthful and immediately frowned. "If you can solve the army's salt shortage, I will recommend you for promotion to Baihu." It seemed Zhao Ling had finally found his opportunity, but Lu Dahu feared that Zhao Ling would take all the credit. After being further manipulated by Zuo Shi, he secretly colluded with private salt smugglers disguised as mountain bandits. Zhao Ling and his companions were ambushed and abducted on the road. When news reached the city, Zuo Shi immediately seized the opportunity. She spread rumors everywhere that Zhao Ling had deserted, eager to destroy Fu Tingyun along with him. She insisted that since Zhao Ling had fled, Fu Tingyun should preserve her chastity for the rest of her life. Wang Foren stepped forward to argue on Fu Tingyun's behalf. Zhao Ling had not even been missing for 100 days, so how could anyone already force a woman to live as a widow? Her intervention managed to win Fu Tingyun 3 days of temporary reprieve. But Zuo Shi refused to wait. She personally brought people to seize Fu Tingyun and forcibly dragged her into a side room of the Women's Virtue Hall. The atmosphere inside was suffocating. With a sinister gaze, Zuo Shi advanced on Fu Tingyun step by step before lifting a bowl of medicinal soup and placing it in front of her. "Drink this chastity medicine. From now on, you can spend the rest of your life peacefully inside the Women's Virtue Hall." As she spoke, she even reached for Fu Tingyun's hair, intending to cut it off and completely crush the pride she had fought so hard to preserve. Just as Fu Tingyun was sinking into despair, a tremendous crash came from outside. Zhao Ling kicked the door open and stormed inside. Dust covered his clothes, and wounds from his recent battles still marked his body. Without hesitation, he rushed forward and pulled the humiliated Fu Tingyun tightly into his arms. After being captured, Zhao Ling had pretended to submit to the bandit leader. Working together with Yang Yuqing and relying on 3 hunting dogs, he eventually fought his way out of the encirclement at the risk of his life. Yet the political struggle surrounding him was far from over. Li Daren, a 4th-rank official, had accepted benefits from Zuo Shi and deliberately suppressed Zhao Ling's achievements. Because of the pressure from above, even Wang Daren did not dare fulfill his promise to promote Zhao Ling. In the middle of this desperate situation, Fu Tingyun noticed something unusual. She discovered a piece of brocade embroidered with a cloud and wild goose pattern, a design that could only be used by civil officials of the 4th rank or higher. Following this clue, Fu Tingyun and Zhao Ling gradually uncovered the truth behind Li Daren's secret dealings with Zuo Shi. The two eventually devised a trap and publicly exposed Li Daren's disgraceful behavior. He had been hiding inside a wardrobe in the Women's Virtue Hall to secretly spy on the female students. Once the scandal was exposed, Zuo Shi desperately tried to save herself. She pushed her younger brother, Zuo Junjie, forward to take the blame, then cut off her own hair and requested permission to enter religious seclusion in order to escape further punishment. Lu Dahu could not avoid responsibility for his crimes and was sentenced to exile. With her support gone, Lu Yingyang was expelled from the Fu family and left to wander the streets. However, because the reputations of many female students were involved, Fu Tingyun had no choice but to keep part of the truth hidden. Zhao Ling later distinguished himself by wiping out the mountain bandits and was officially promoted to Baihu. From there, he continued to achieve one military victory after another, eventually rising to become a third-rank general. The Women's Virtue Hall was placed under Fu Tingyun's management. After surviving countless storms together, Zhao Ling and Fu Tingyun finally received an imperial decree personally, granting their marriage. After all the suffering, humiliation, separation, and injustice they had endured, they were finally able to stand beside each other openly and become husband and wife with honor. Yet another part of the road to splendor only truly became clear after Jin Yuanbao betrayed Zhao Ling and was discarded like a dirty rag. Only then did the meaning behind his decision to strike the Dengwen drum become fully understandable. Jin Yuanbao had never wanted to become a hero. He was simply a merchant, a calculating salt dealer who valued silver more than his own life. Yet it was precisely a man like him who ultimately performed one of the bravest acts in the entire capital. He publicly retracted his testimony and sacrificed one of his legs to reclaim the conscience he had long ago thrown away. Whenever people thought of Jin Yuanbao, the first things that came to mind were probably his thin goatee and those constantly shifting little eyes. Back when Zhao Ling was still known as Zhou Jiao, Jin Yuanbao had already been the group's accountant. No one could work an abacus faster than him. Later, after Zhao Ling left that life behind and entered official service, Jin Yuanbao continued climbing in his own way. From a small salt shop in Yongning Prefecture, he rose all the way to become the chief Shaanxi merchant representative in the capital. He dressed himself in fine silk and expensive brocade, finally appearing every bit like a wealthy and respectable businessman. But most of that respectability was superficial. Everything rested on one thing, his cleverness. When Zhao Ling sent him to Zhangye to establish a commercial route, Jin Yuanbao barely arrived before rushing between silk shops and salt stores. He confidently told merchants that prices would triple during the Lantern Festival and guaranteed them profits, dazzling shopkeepers with promises until they could barely think straight. His nose for profit was sharper than a hunting dog's. Wherever money could be made, Jin Yuanbao would always be among the first to arrive. In his world, everything had a price, even brotherhood. Later, when Zhao Ling was removed from office and assigned to supervise repairs to the Imperial Mausoleum, an ordinary person might have thought about how to complete the task properly. Jin Yuanbao thought about how to complete it cleverly. He eagerly offered Zhao Ling an idea. "Jiuyi, this is exactly how we should do it. First, spread word that the Imperial Mausoleum will be renovated on a scale worth 1 million taels. Merchants who want favor from the government will rush to lower their prices. Then I'll hint that I can help them obtain the title of Imperial Supplier. As for the actual cost, I guarantee we can keep it below 100,000 taels." A project advertised as worth 1 million taels, completed for less than 100,000. That was Jin Yuanbao's talent, creating profit almost out of thin air. But this also revealed the truth about his loyalty. He might constantly speak of brotherhood, but deep down he remained the private salt smuggler who would once risk his life for a handful of silver. The moment the scales of profit tilted far enough, his so-called loyalty became as thin as paper. And then came the betrayal. What made Jin Yuanbao so infuriating was not simply his greed. It was how completely justified he believed his betrayal to be. When Yu Galao dangled the promise of making him the greatest salt merchant in the Northwest, Jin Yuanbao sold Zhao Ling out without hesitation. He knelt outside the government office holding land deeds and property documents stamped with Zhao Ling's private seal and accused Zhao Ling of colluding with merchants and trafficking illegal salt. From that moment, the balance inside Jin Yuanbao's heart had completely shifted. He believed Zhao Ling looked down on him and treated him as nothing more than an errand runner. A man lived for his dignity, just as a tree lived for its bark. Jin Yuanbao could not swallow that humiliation. So when Yu Galao casually asked him, "Then why has Zhao Ling never helped you with your business?" the words struck precisely where his resentment had been festering. Whatever hesitation remained inside him shattered. He found a son and stubbornly declared, "Jiu Yi has blocked too many people's paths. Someone has to claim this wealth and status. Why can't that person be me, Jin Yuanbao?" That single question, "Why can't it be me?" revealed all the resentment, jealousy, dissatisfaction, and greed buried inside him. In his mind, he had followed Zhao Ling through life and death situations for years. Now that the dangerous days were over, he believed it should finally be his turn to enjoy wealth and status. Once betrayal entered his mind, however, it was like taking the first mouthful of poisoned wine. There was no easy way to stop. The turning point came when Jin Yuanbao finally realized that Yu Galao had discarded him like a rag used to wipe the floor. He eagerly went to see Yu Galao, expecting to be rewarded for his contribution. Instead, the door was closed in his face. Then Yu Huaiyan casually threw a sentence at him that felt like a bucket of icy water poured over his head. Once something has been swallowed, can it really be spat back out? At that moment, Jin Yuanbao must have been stunned. He had thought he was attaching himself to a mighty tree that would shelter him for the rest of his life. Instead, those people had only regarded him as a disposable tool, useful for a moment and worthless afterward. Jin Yuanbao had spent most of his life calculating everything: money, business, people, profit. But he had never calculated his own value in the eyes of those more powerful than him. To them, he was nothing. At that moment, the cleverness he had always been so proud of became the greatest joke of his life. Sometimes a person has to fall all the way to the bottom before finally seeing what he has turned himself into. When Fu Tingyun found him again, the once proud chief merchant of the capital had already become like a homeless dog. She asked whether he was willing to turn back before it was too late. Jin Yuanbao's eyes reddened. What broke him at that moment was not merely the realization that choosing Yu Galao had been a mistake. He finally understood that he himself had destroyed everything. He had walked his own road to a dead end and reduced years of brotherhood to nothing more than another transaction. The next day, the Jin Yuanbao who walked forward and struck the Dengguan drum was no longer the same man everyone had known. In front of everyone, he withdrew his previous accusation and declared, "I, Commoner Jin Yuanbao, accuse the current Grand Secretary Yu Guodong of ordering me to frame a loyal official." The punishment was 80 strokes. Each blow crashed heavily across his back until blood soaked through his expensive robe. The magistrate demanded that he change his testimony. Jin Yuanbao clenched his teeth so hard they nearly shattered before forcing 2 words through them. "I won't." He would not change his testimony. When the final strike fell, a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It was relief. It was release. At last, Jin Yuanbao had paid for his greed with one of his legs, and in doing so, he finally broke free from the man he had become. He returned with a permanent limp and opened a small salt shop. On the wall, he kept memorial tablets for Yang Yuqing, Yang Mu, and the others. People in the neighborhood would sometimes talk about him. Master Jin struck the Dengguan drum. He sacrificed a leg, but he preserved his loyalty. Perhaps hearing those words still hurt. But for the first time in a very long while, Jin Yuanbao could probably live with a peaceful heart.